every single project I've ever worked on in UX design or UX research has been completely different to the other, and that's what you need to understand. There's no two projects that are the same. So what you're going to come across is that projects are different. They vary in the team structure, the types of professionals that are hired. So one team you may have 2 UX designers, 1 user researcher. Other projects you see 3 user researchers and 1 UX designer. Other projects you have a project manager, you have a business analyst, service designer, 1 UX designer, and 1 UX researcher. So every project's different, and you're going to join a team and realize, wow, why is it so different? That's because the management or C-suite or those that are hiring or planning have decided this is the team dynamic we need for this particular project. And it always varies according to whatever your project is doing. So whatever your team is working on, it may vary. For example, if you're building an app, you may need less user research and more design skills, UI designers, UX designers. Whereas other services, for example, for the government or a community project or charity, may need much more user researchers because they want to capture more insights of the user's needs in terms of an emotional service, which is like, for example, charity for the homeless. So whatever it might be, whatever the users might need, that is what you're going to come across. So now, in that, you need to understand the terminology used, because everywhere they're going to use different words. For example, when you're looking at a user journey, you might say, we're looking at different touch points. Others may not use the word touch points. They may just say, it's a user journey. We want to understand each part of the user journey. So they may use different terminology, and the best way to do it is to write it down. You write down the terminology, that's the best way you'll understand it for that context of that project. So you may work with a service designer that uses service design language, you know, in terms of roadmaps and swim lanes. And you might think, what's a swim lane? So understanding that is maybe difficult in the beginning, but you just can keep writing it down. You can Google search those words when you start your job, and even ask if you don't know. There's nothing wrong with asking about terminology because you don't know what it means. So always ask if you don't know. You don't want to look like an idiot asking too many times, but sometimes you can ask. It's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And then you've got the language of the developers, which is like deployment and going into prod or production. And you need to know a little bit about that because you're working with developers a lot of the time. UX researchers don't work as much as UX designers do, but you will be in meetings like daily stand-ups, and you will need to understand a little bit about what they're saying. So you don't need to know about the technical side of things like what they do with code and Ruby on Rails and all this software that they use. You don't need to know, but you do need to know about Jira and GitHub, because that's where the tickets go. So you'll need to, let's have a quick look at that. Look at the UI of that, maybe watch a few YouTube videos on that. Drop any questions you have so I can make more videos for you to explain these things. So understanding the language of developers and other colleagues is really key, and it will take time to learn them all, but it's a language. I explain it like lawyers or attorneys. If you see a lawyer will speak a certain language, and if you don't speak that language, you won't understand what they're saying. So that's why we can't go to court to fight ourselves. We use lawyers because they speak legal jargon. In the same way, in IT projects, UX projects, they speak a language, a jargon, and you need to understand that jargon. And that's what's so key to getting on with delivering the project, because if you don't know what they're saying, you can't really help, you can't deliver on the project. So try your best to learn as much of that terminology. I've got a few videos on terminology, so it's in the playlist for UX terminologies. So get to understand that terminology. That will really help you. That'll be really helpful to yourselves in terms of what you need to learn and capture.